Hello and welcome back to HardStuck. I'm your host, Nick Thug Nasty Lava. Joined with me today is J704 Not Found Burkholder and Justin Meta Pusher Wilkes. And we are going to be talking about a jam-packed episode for you today, diving into all the events that happened over this past weekend and the 4 to 5 events that we have going into this weekend. We had explosive Call of Duty League play this past weekend and the ESL Pro League Season 21 finale. We also have Valorant Champion Americas this weekend into Blast Lisbon, Halo 1 Major Qualifier, Call of Duty Major 2. It's going to be an exciting weekend, and let's get started off by talking about the Call of Duty League right before the final Major 2. Had a lot of 3-0s, had a lot of 3-1s. As much as I hate to say it, Jay was right, but we did have one 3-2, delivered an amazing Game 5 series with Ultra edging out Surge. It would be easy to say that Ultra is the better team right now heading into LAN this weekend. However, Jay, what do you think?
See, when we look at it, I think that Ultra has just had an easier time.
Okay.
Surge and Ultra are both really good, and honestly, stats-wise, they're pretty much tied, right? They have the same amount of match wins, same amount of match losses, and game losses. Surge only has 2 more game wins overall. And so when you look at that, it's like, well, it's hard to say who is the better team statistically. You could say, based on Breaking Point, has every single member of Ultra at above 1 rating. So when you look at those stats, it's like, okay, compared to like only 2 people from Surge, fine. But when we look at who they've played, I think that Ultra has had an easier time. Surge obviously played Thieves back-to-back and had a huge win streak in February. Ultra, they played Falcons and OpTic last few weeks. Yeah, it's a free win, right? So I think Ultra has had an easier time. Surge, I want them to be the better team. I think they're going to play better going into this Major 2.
Do you think even with the 3-2 match that we just had in Ultra winning that, you're still saying that?
I'm still saying that.
You're still saying that Surge is the better team?
That was a fun match to watch, I think, or series to watch. Great matches in there. Honestly, though, I think they're neck and neck. Who do I think is going to pull it out? I think Surge will.
Okay. Justin, how about you?
I agree with what you just said. I do think that even though the Ultra won 3-2, I do think that Surge are the better team. That whole series was just kind of murky and just honestly played with controversy. There was a lot of server issues. The map 3, the control, which was really kind of the decider between these two teams. You know, you have one team that's very good on their respawns, one team that's very good on their searches, and then having to like restart that control match, long breaks in the middle.
Yeah.
Very weird scenario. And I do agree that the strength of schedule has been much more difficult for the Surge. So I think that they're a team that's going to keep rising, and they've had tough bits, but I think they're going to cruise through the back half of this. And I think that, yeah, they're definitely a better team. I won't say definitely. I'll retract that definitely. I think that they're a better team. The argument is not the most sound because the results are hard to deny so soon afterwards, but there's something to that Surge team I like.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think especially coming off that second place finish in that minor a couple of weeks ago, they're looking good, and I have a lot of faith in them going into this major this coming weekend. But OpTic finally got their second series win in a long time this weekend. Buzz is looking great. We were going to take this conversation one direction, but we had to change it because we had some breaking news that they did finally make that roster change. They dropping Kenny, picking up Skyz. Will this shakeup make a real impact for Major 2, Justin?
I think it will make a major impact in the sense of OpTic should now be reliably beating these weaker teams in them. I don't think that this is just going to immediately put them past that group of teams that's looking to compete with the top 2 or 3. I feel like that's kind of how it is. We got the bottom teams, and then we have the few little contenders down here, the Ravens and Cloud9 and stuff, and then the top dogs.
Yeah.
I think it just solidly separates them from the bottom, but doesn't really do anything crazy. Maybe just the vibe change, maybe all the intangibles that can come with a change like this might be enough to get it done. But overall, it's a necessary change, but not a full game changer in terms of the roster strength.
Jay, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, personally, I don't think it's a huge shakeup. Honestly, I don't like changes like this, right? Like in the middle of the season, I will never love a roster swap going straight into a major. I don't think it's enough time to get any chemistry. Obviously, there's been some rumors that maybe like Skyz is going to get picked up over Kenny. Now, and like, honestly, I think I like that change. It's good. Skyz deserves a chance to prove himself with a new team. And I think that like OpTic will probably be a better team for this. Do I think this is going to make them a top 5 team? I mean, there ain't no way, right? Not so soon. I do think that like we give it a few series, maybe coming out of Majors 2, we'll see a different OpTic. We'll see a different breed of OpTic for sure.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people were sleeping on the Skyz pick at first. It's not really a big name unless you're really deep. He won 2023 World Championship with the Subliners. But, Jay, what you were just saying, forget mid-season change. This is going right from one weekend of league play to he might have been packing his bags for his hotel stay. The major is within 4-day turnaround. Kind of crazy to me that if they were going to make it, they needed to make it earlier, in my opinion. They waited too long. But I am excited to see Skyz was sitting on the bench, world-class talent, world champion. There's not many of those to go around, so I'm hoping the best for the green wall, but only time will tell. However, really quick, Jay, is Kenny showing up for the ring ceremony on Thursday?
Yes, undoubtedly. I don't think there should be any speculation that he doesn't show up for that. Obviously, there's a little bit of awkwardness there, but he said it himself in his tweet. He said, I expected this. I was ready for this decision to be made. I'm fine with it. And maybe that's his PR way of saying that to the world. And maybe he feels differently on the inside. But, I mean, it's his ring, right? He's showing up for that ceremony.
Justin.
Of course, yeah. I mean, you don't want to be the bad side of a bad breakup. Like, I really think it would be foolish of him not to show up, despite how awkward it might feel. You're part of that team. You won that ring. And I think ultimately, you thinking about your career and what has been happening and what might happen in the future, you want to keep the door open. You want to be able to come back to OpTic, and not showing up to the ring ceremony I feel like would be a clear indicator on whatever side, whether OpTic says don't come or Kenny says I'm not coming. That would say that the relationship is irreparable.
No,
which it doesn't seem like it is. So I agree. I think 100% he'll be there. If not, I'll send out a mean tweet.
Understand.
I'll take care of it, guys.
Note it, ladies and gentlemen. But hey, I think I would personally show up too. I think you bring up a great point of, you're going to cut the relationship short, and I think you got to go network a little bit and find that next team that hopefully he's going to find shortly. Great talent, like I said, just thinking a very, very bad slump. But looking ahead, we said it multiple times, Major 2 is this weekend with the final weekend of league play underneath us. We have the bracket. Talking about a thrilling round 1 matchup, we have Surge facing off against Carolina Royal Ravens. In my mind, 2 top teams that are going to be fighting for the top 4 of this tournament. Facing off in round 1 is an amazing matchup to get right out of the gate. Justin, what is your top 4 prediction after seeing this bracket from 4 to 1? Start at the bottom for me.
Okay, I think starting at the bottom is smart, because I think we'll probably all have very similar top 2. Just based on the way the bracket kind of goes, is you have Atlanta and you have the LA Thieves, and they've got a fairly easy path into the top 4.
Yeah.
And then it's just going to be those 2 other quarterfinals. I don't know, with the weird double elim, I don't know what you consider what one. But
yeah.
So those bottom 2, despite having the ties to Carolina, that everybody here has, by the way. I'm going to give it to the Surge. I think the Surge are going to beat the Ravens.
Just to be clear, 4.
Say that again?
This is your 4 seed. This is your 4th place finisher?
I don't even know. I'm just going to random 3 versus 4 because basically, it all comes down to matchups and stuff out there. So yeah, I think the Surge are going to beat the Ravens. I think the Surge look good. They're making improvements. They lost Searches to a good team in the Ultra, but I think overall their play is really solid. So I've got the Surge up there as well. And then down on the bottom side, you've got Ultra versus Cloud9. I've got the Ultra winning that. Unfortunately, I love Cloud9, but I do think Ultra are in for a good performance here. They're fired up and they're playing good. So yeah, I'll put Ultra 4, Surge 3, and then whoever the top 2. I don't care.
Okay. Jay, how about you?
I'm very excited for those games. I'm very excited for Cloud9 versus Ultra, and I'm very excited for Ravens versus Surge. You could have guessed it. I'm going with my Ravens pick over Surge in that game 1. I do think that it is going to be an amazing match to watch, or a series to watch. And I do think that Ultra versus Cloud9 is going to be close. I would say based on everything we've seen to this point, Ultra is probably going to win that. But Cloud9 has a chance to lock in here. Same for the Royal Ravens. And I think the Royal Ravens are going to lock in. And I think they're going to take the Surge. And that's why I've got Surge as my 4th.
Okay.
Carolina Royal Ravens as my 3rd.
Okay.
FaZe in 2nd. And Thieves in 1st. I do think that the Thieves are just so good this season. We've just not seen them shake their dominance at all. So
you think we've got a big lower bracket run from
Surge?
From the Surge. They're going to lose to the Ravens and then make a deep run.
Yeah,
Top
Surge
4.
from Elam bracket. I
that.
think they're going to come back up.
I can see that.
So Justin, I'm not going to let you get away with it. Who's winning? Who's in 2nd? FaZe or
same one. I've got Thieves winning.
Okay.
FaZe in 2nd.
Okay.
I mean, it's predictable, right? Like the league up until this point, we're in mid-March, right? It's been the same story over and over again.
Is there any chance of upsets? I'm not sure. Maybe FaZe could not show up. I really feel like the Thieves are rock solid, though. If they weren't playing in the grand finals, I would be very surprising.
They played a little shaky last week. I thought they didn't dominate as harshly this time. I still think like they had a week to take care of that. They're headed into this major, and they're like, we're gonna win again. Like it's another major title. Let's get it.
Yeah, so I think I'll rattle mine off really quick, which might be a little bit confusing. I think that Carolina Royal Ravens are going to stick in that 4th. They're going to be a little hard stuck in that 4th place, unfortunately, for this one. I'm going to give 3rd to Surge. 2nd, 100 Thieves. And then FaZe. I see FaZe and 100 Thieves going back and forth all year. And just to ride the roller coaster, I'm going to give this one to FaZe. And then the question that I'm going to ask each of you, and I'll throw out mine off the rip. Who's the sleeper team that we haven't already talked about? Well, for me, it's Ultra because I don't have them in my top 4. What about you, Jay?
I'm going to say Cloud9.
Okay.
I think it'll be fun if we see Cloud9 beat Ultra. I just want to see more out of them. And if they make a bracket run for it, so be it. Honestly, I'd love to see Cloud9 versus Royal Ravens in like a semifinal type deal.
Yeah, they haven't gotten much love, and it seems like Justin's nodding his head. We almost feel like he's going to agree with that. But we haven't given C9 much love over the past couple events and conversations. Justin, who's your pick?
Yeah, I think C9 is a good team, and I do agree. I'd like to see them in one of those deep matches. That's not who I'll pick. I will agree with the Ultra, though. I think that they're this team that if they get going and they're playing really good, they kind of show, like, I think, almost a higher top side than almost any other team. Like, their top side could easily compete with FaZe and the Thieves, if not just leave them in the dust if they're playing really good. So if they have a very competitive quarterfinals, get tested a bit and kind of prevail through there, and then upset FaZe in that semifinals, the sky's the limit for them. So I'll give the Ultra my endorsement there. The underdog. I don't think any team outside of the top 8 has even a chance at this. Like, I think all of them, you can just chalk them up as being losses in that lower bracket down there. Lower bracket's not going to be that fun to watch, in my opinion, in this tournament.
Yeah, no, with OpTic being their home tournament and however making some roster changes, this is still a pretty exciting major that I'm looking forward to. Probably one of the most exciting majors
I actually
I've seen
think
in a while.
that when OpTic gets eliminated early, it makes for the most exciting COD events, because then, the green wall just disperses and starts cheering for other people, and you start actually getting a very well spread out event.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But switching gears over to the ESL Pro League Season 21 finale over this past weekend. I was hoping to see a Vitality Spirit matchup. Didn't quite get it. Vitality put on a dominating 3-0 win over MOUZ. So, Justin, overreaction, underreaction. Is Vitality the team to beat in 2025?
I think that it's neither. I think it's appropriate.
Okay.
That's a fair statement. I think that Vitality has the firepower to match any team, with Apex making these calls and just like playing. So I mean, it's crazy seeing a team with that many like superstars also get significant amount of round wins just with like cerebral play calls where Apex just goes off to the B site, distracts the whole team, and then his 4 superstars should get completely free access to the A site. That being said, Spirit still, they kind of fell off. They got beat by MOUZ, so we didn't really get to see that Vitality versus Spirit final to see, big dog versus big dog. So anything could happen there. Now that we're coming into Blast 2, we've got some other teams being thrown back into the equation. Can FaZe do anything sneaky? Can Astralis throw anything crazy into there?
Yeah.
I think that Vitality is the team to beat, though. They seem so rock solid. Their players so talented. And yeah, I was super excited to see them win. I was close on my Nostradamus prediction from last week.
Almost.
The end result was correct, but the fancy yarn that I weaved leading the way to it was not as correct as I thought.
Jay?
Yeah, see, I don't know. I agree with some of your points, but I'd have to say that Vitality, they're not the main team to beat, and that's only because there's like a top 4. And I'll give you my top 4, okay?
Oh, wow. We're getting a bonus top 4.
You're getting my bonus top 4, okay?
Okay.
I've got Vitality in number 1. Tied for number 1, though.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say.
Wait a minute. They're not the best team to beat, but they're number 1.
Tied for number 1.
Okay.
Let them cook.
With 2 other teams. Team
Oh.
Spirit, and I know we saw that. I know we saw that final, right? And I know it was obliteration, but MOUZ.
Okay.
And the reason being, right, is we have seen a run from MOUZ this year that has put them among the elites and put them in a place where they have a chance to grow as a team, right? The more experience you get playing, A, more Counter-Strike, but also B, playing at that highest level, going to the finals, the semifinals, you're going to see them grow as a team. You're going to see them get better. I do think Torzy is doing wonderful work leading his team right now. And I do think that MOUZ has a chance to become better than Vitality. Vitality is really strong right now, and we saw a force from them last week, right? But when we look at upcoming tournaments, I think they start to fall off a little bit. And I do think if Team Spirit can figure out what's going on with their team comp and maybe build a bit more from the rest of the team with Donk, not just relying on Donk at the top, we're going to see those 3 dominate in a way that makes Counter-Strike so much more interesting this year.
Awesome, Jay. And hey, I think this is a perfect segue into the next conversation. Spirit put up a fierce fight against the PGO Cluj-Napoca champions in MOUZ. Fell in a game 3. They lost the series 2-1. But do we finally see who Donk really is? Is he a human after all? Overreaction or underreaction?
I think Donk is a robot. I don't think he's a human. I think we saw a bug in his code this past weekend. And, you know, Magic's even said, like, if Donk doesn't show up this weekend, we're cooked. And then I wouldn't say Donk didn't show up. Donk still played pretty well considering, but maybe there was a bug in his code. Maybe there was a slight fluke there.
He definitely has some different standards. Justin, what are your thoughts on Donk's performance from this past weekend?
I think underreaction. I think Donk did kind of show his human side a little bit. I mean, he is a very incredible player. There's no denying it. But his career hasn't lasted that long. The longer it lasts, the more we'll see kind of downtrends and you know, fatigue in certain scenarios and maybe performances that aren't up there, whether it's because he doesn't perform or his team doesn't perform. I do feel like this was something that Spirit kind of dropped their play a little bit. MOUZ, I like them. They play really solid. We actually saw Jimmy in one of the interviews talk about how he was super excited to play Spirit because Spirit don't really play too cerebral of a Counter-Strike. They're kind of run around the map, hit their headshots, and just do that. Jimmy liked playing against that, and it worked out well for them. Then they get into the finals. They kind of struggle against a team that's more cerebral with their map usage, their utility usage, and tracking of all that, baiting things out and stuff. So I think Donk did kind of show a little bit of humanity there. Obviously, it doesn't always come out just in terms of like 4 and 14 map, like, you know, KD on the map, but that Spirit lives and dies by Donk. So when they're lying on the, you know, the floor of the ESL Pro League dead in the semifinals, you got to point to the star player. That's the good and the bad side of being that superstar.
Yeah, with no time to waste, going straight into Blast Lisbon group stage kicking off this weekend. Justin, what teams are you looking for to top groups A and B?
Wow. So this is going to be a super exciting tournament. I think we'll talk about Group A first because Group A seems to be completely loaded with some top dogs. You got Spirit, you've got MOUZ, and they're literally all 3 of Jay's teams that are tied for first in the world are all in Group A right there. And then you've got FaZe coming in. So I'm throwing it to Vitality and Spirit. I really want to see both Spirit and MOUZ win their first round matchups. Spirit overcome, get their revenge on MOUZ, and then we get to see the final that we wanted to see for ESL. I've got Vitality winning that. I'm going to stick with them. I think that they are really. I'm not gonna spend too much time glazing the Vitality victory. I already did that before. And then in Group E, I think the Mongols. I really like the Mongols. They look really good. That group seems like it's up to anybody to win. There's a bunch of matchups where I'm like, either team could win this, and if that team gets a win, who knows? Maybe they could make a run all the way to finals. But I'll throw my hat in with the Mongols.
Awesome, Jay. What are your predictions?
I've already glazed Group A, obviously. Team Spirit, MOUZ, Vitality. If I had to pick a sleeper pick, it would be Falcons. I think the Falcons are playing really well right now, and I think they're going to continue to do so. And I want to see more from Australis as well. That's sleeper pick for sure.
Okay.
And Group B, Team Liquid, Eternal Fire, Mongols, and Navi. That's what I'm looking at, okay?
Who's your favorite?
Those are my favorites. I have 4.
They're all tied for number 1 favorite.
But I will amend my earlier statement, right? Because I only said 3 teams when we were going over top 4 earlier.
Yeah.
So I will say...
I was kind of calling you out for that. Got you.
Navi. Navi is my
okay.
Good.
All right. You know what? Because if I had to pick, Navi is coming out of Group B, and I'm hoping for a bounce back from Donk. So I'm going Spirit for Group A.
I like that Australis mentioned, though. I mean, they're definitely the best teams that have come out of any of those rising little like qualified in positions. So the fact that that team is thrown in a bottom part of the bracket with the players on that team is crazy. And if Vitality starts off slow, that is a team that you like of the 4 teams in there. You know, M80, Imperial, Huns, and Australis. You drew the bad one. Like a lot of those, I think that's a bad matchup. So if anything could happen to Vitality, it might happen early.
It's going to be fun.
But to agree with Jay, I do think the sleeper pick is the Falcons. Got knocked out early at season 21. They had an extra week to prepare coming into this. I think they're going to come out strong. They could cause some upsets and they could shake up Group A a little bit, even though Group A is clearly the more dominant group. Any other sleepers that you have, Justin?
Not at this point, man. You know, we'll see how the group stage plays out and if any of these teams are particularly playing really good at this event. I'll be honest, some of the lower teams too, I'm just not that familiar with. So we'll see what Imperial or Huns or any of these teams come out with, and we'll see what Team Liquid we get. You know, Team Liquid, Eternal Fire, that's probably going to be a pretty exciting match there at the beginning of group stage. And either one of those teams, like I said, if they get hot, could maybe cause some trouble for G2 in the next round.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Awesome. Well, hey, Justin, it'll be your soapbox here in a moment as we're shifting gears onto League of Legends. Been a wild ride, but let's be real. I may not know every detail when it comes to League of Legends, but I know the sting that NA fell short in first stand due to some round-robin tiebreakers that are too complicated for my brain to understand. However, Justin, let's dive into some hot takes. Overreaction or underreaction that Hanwha is the team to beat this year, and you can take this whichever way you want, is the Fearless Draft the best addition to League of Legends since the pick ban system?
Okay, those
are some
two great topics because
there's some hot takes.
They actually tie into there to get they tie into each other together. Okay. I think that Hanwha is the team to beat this year. Their roster is insane. They play very, very good in all positions. Like their weakest role, their jungler Peanut. Like if I could pull up the KD for Peanut in these series that he played in first stands, you would not expect that this is like the veteran, the role player. Like dude's dropping 9, 0, and 16 on Vi and just like completely running the game. And then, is Fearless the best thing to be done to League? I'm enjoying it a lot in the short term, but I'm kind of considering whether it will be great long term for League because teams like Hanwha are so flexible and so dominant that it almost doesn't even feel competitive with the Fearless Draft as we get into best of fives. In the grand finals against Carmine Corp, the top team from Europe, in game 4, I felt like the Fearless Draft had Carmine Corp so limited that they didn't even have champs that they could play. I was like, this draft looks unplayable for them.
Yeah.
If they had even somehow lottery managed to win that game, in game 5, I don't even know what champions they're going to pick. They're going to be so deep into like their personal tier list of champions that they have almost zero chance of winning, in my opinion. So in the long term, might cause for some imbalance in between these really dominant Asian regions and the emerging regions trying to challenge them.
I think that's fine, though, in my opinion. I think it's okay to let the true talent shine for those. If you have a deeper agent pool or hero pool, then the better for you. And if you could rise to the top, so be it. I think it is really, really interesting to watch, and I'm curious if other games will adapt that as well in other hero or agent-based shooters or MOBAs. I thought it was really cool, and I heard that they're going to adapt it for the rest of the season too, and probably the rest of the year.
Yeah,
so,
we might get to see some teams start adapting the way they build their teams and build their rosters to kind of play around that. Nobody knew if it was going to be continued, so maybe people were continuing to sign players who are limited in their champion pools and stuff.
Yeah.
Now you know it's going to continue. Maybe you start thinking that player who's flexible on 10 different champions is a lot more valuable to me than that person who could play just 2 of them at a really high level. Because everybody wants to perform internationally, and if you get into an international event with like a BO5 with a Korean team, you got to be able to play 6, 7 champions, because it's not just the 5 that you pick, it's the 5 they pick and any bans they throw in additionally. So got to be very flexible.
Yeah, no, and definitely seeing KC win that first map, you're like, wait, did they maybe just throw it all in to get this first map and have Hanwha second guessing some things a little bit, but didn't end up mattering. Hanwha won the next 3, no question about it. But on to some Valorant. Jay, I know you're excited about the upcoming Valorant Champions Tour Americas. Who are your favorites, and what teams are heading home out of Group A and Group B?
I'm super excited for that match between Scent and 100 Thieves on Sunday, March 23rd at 8 p.m. I will be in my chair for that. I really want to see more from Sentinels this year. Obviously, like, they haven't had the run that they wanted this year, to say the least. And also, like, same for 100 Thieves, right? Like, I want to see more out of them. It's 2 NA powerhouses going against each other. I just think it's going to be a fantastic game. And then G2 versus Furia, that should be interesting. I think G2 right now has a chance to be, I mean, they are probably sitting at top 4 at least overall, like, just not even just Americas, just like in the world. But going out of Americas, it's going to be interesting if they can keep that same firepower. And Furia is pretty good. Maybe we get an upset. I don't know. Probably not. I'm going for G2. And then Cloud9 versus NRG is going to be a fun match to watch too. Who's going home though? A lot of our South American teams, I think, unfortunately, are going home. Leviathan, I don't think is going to last very long. Yeah. Sorry, South America. It's kind of like League right now. It's a little chalked. Maybe Riot Games is just not a SA thing.
I think I'm going to be a little chalk with my selections here. I think Group A, Sen's going to win it. 2-game esports is going home. Group B, sneaky pick. I think G2 is one of the top teams in the world right now, but I'm going to go NRG for Group 2, which is actually starting off the week with Cloud9 versus NRG. I'm going to be glued to that matchup. And then I believe, it's a tough one to see who's going home from this one, but I'm actually going to have to say Leviathan as well. Unfortunately, sorry, South America ahead of time. But those are it. And sure, there's some Halo this weekend too. That should be fun. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but another major qualifier going into the tournament in April. A lot of thrilling esports action to watch this week. Quick hitter before we get out of here. With all of the 4 events that we're talking about this weekend, Jay, what are you most excited to watch?
Valorant, for sure.
Valorant. Justin?
I'm going to say Valorant as well.
Wow.
Yep, because it's new to me.
We've been out.
Which is funny because I actually coached professional Valorant at the beginning of the scene, but I just got so distanced from it in my time off. I'm getting back into Valorant.
Halo for me, it goes without saying. But that is all the time we have here today on HardStuck. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen.